Hello, Michelle.
Hey, Desiree.
Welcome to episode 16. We had such a great conversation with Michelle. Thank you for
Yes.
inviting her. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I want to talk more about that, but first, I want to see how you're doing. How was your past week? You had a big celebration last week. I would love to hear about it.
My birthday, it wasn't a big celebration. It was my
Yes.
birthday, though.
Mhm.
Yes, I spent the day with the family meaning me, my husband, and my two little ones. And we went to the cemetery to see our dad, yours and my dad, not our dad. But um, I always saw him on my birthdays, so I like to take the kids there and have it be a good thing. And then we went to a pumpkin patch, which you
Oh,
see. I I My birthday is October 3rd, so it's the start of October, and it is like the start of Halloween, right? So
well, the start of
um
birthday season too.
yes, our family, everyone's birthday is in the fall. That's true. So
Fun fact, it's not really
yeah,
a question, but I have three younger sisters, Michelle being one of them, and all their birthdays are in October.
yes.
So weird. Okay,
You are
continue.
in the fall also.
November,
You're
yeah.
closer, yeah, you're closer to Thanksgiving. Uh, so it's a season of celebration for us, and um, we were there. We went to, like I said, a pumpkin patch. One year, my godfather, which I call him my Nino, one year for I think I was like 26, I think. Um, he brought me this huge pumpkin. That was my gift. Um, just as it was enormous, like, it was, like, kind of like a gag gift of how big it was, and, we used to celebrate at Farrell's, which is the ice cream parlor, um, that at the time, there were a few Farrell's around, so we were at Farrell's, and
Brought the
he
pumpkin to
came
Farrell's.
he brought it to Farrell's, and it was huge, and loved it. I was like, "Yes, it's October," like, "Yes." I just it was funny, but I loved it, and ever since then, I need a pumpkin on my birthday. So we went to the pumpkin patch, and um, the lady that ran the pumpkin patch heard it was my birthday from someone, and so she's like, "I'll let you get a free pumpkin," and pumpkins there are expensive, and um, I got a little one because they're expensive. I wasn't gonna find a big one and be like, "Oh, she said she said I got a free," so we got a little one, and, we carved it this weekend, and,
Oh.
um, we meaning me and my 6-year-old. So,
Carve that little one behind you.
yeah,
Oh, that's so
yeah.
cute. It looks
He
like
was
it's like
so proud of it too. He drew
ceramic.
on
It's big.
No, it's real. He drew on it, I carved it for him, and, it's a real pumpkin. He
Hey,
cleaned it
I saw
out.
on my Facebook reels this video about carving pumpkins. She said, I love it was such a great idea. She said carve it from the bottom, like you know how you took the top off, put
Yeah.
it from the bottom and then carve it and then sprinkle cinnamon, when it's upside down, sprinkle cinnamon on the top and then you put it over a candle. And so whenever the candle warms it, it smells all cinnamony and pumpkiny. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. I love
I
little.
love that. I'm gonna do that because with that, what you're saying too, um, I have a small little candle, but I don't have those long lighters, so I can't.
You could just lift it up, like,
Yes,
yes.
yes,
And she also
and
another tip, I wish I knew her name. I don't even pay attention to who does these reels. It wasn't a friend of mine, it was just one of the videos. Um, she said rub Vaseline around the edges so it like helps preserve it and keep it moist so it doesn't like get all moldy really quick. But I love the cinnamon idea. I'm like, what a good idea to sprinkle cinnamon on.
Yes. I love that. Thank you. I'm gonna do that
Okay, good.
on the next one.
Yes, I was
Um,
thinking that too. I'm like, oh, Nick, when you go to the pumpkin patch, we got to do it upside down
upside down.
or right side
Definitely.
up, whatever. So you had a good birthday. That sounds lovely.
Yes, it was good. And my 2-year-old sang happy birthday to me all day. Like she just sang the song all day. I think I mentioned it once, like when I picked her up. I took the day off of work, so it was that was great. And I picked her up and in the morning out of the crib and I'm like, it's mommy's birthday, not thinking nothing of it. But she sang to me all day. Happy birthday. So
It's
it was special, very special.
very sweet. Good. That sounds like a perfect birthday celebration. How's work going for you? Do we not want to talk about that here?
Oh my gosh. I wish you guys heard, but right when you asked that, I heard like boom, like either a car backfired or uh it was just perfect timing when you asked because it is boom right now. uh but it's okay. I'm more than okay. I'm say that because I'm in a good place right now and the resetting, and we talked about it in the last podcast with my therapist, with her, saying stopping the thought and all of that. Um, I do it often because these negative thoughts always come up in our heads by default, and I stop it and I redirect my thinking and take a breath and like like when you're in it, anything in any situation, when you're in it, it starts becoming like a big old tornado, and you get lost in it. And so for me to stopping it is just, it's not ignoring it, but it's reframing and not getting caught up in it. And that is just it.
Life changing.
It is life changing. It doesn't matter what's going on. Like I just, you know, breath, and it's okay. We're all fine. It's fine.
It's good.
So I'm good. Yeah.
Good. That is a good update. I don't know about my week. Isn't it so hard? Like you think like I don't even know what we had for dinner last night. Work has been picking up for me and actually um it's been pretty slow for a couple of months, but I'm actually meeting with clients now and it has been so beautiful and rewarding to I'm help people. I'm a social worker, and so being able to meet with people and share in their challenges and help them overcome their challenges has been awesome to get back to it. So work is good. It's picking up. It's super busy. Um, but yeah, work's good, family's good. It's all good here. Hey, I do want to like debrief a little bit with this combo with your therapist. That was so phenomenal. That was such a great
It was.
conversation. And I thought it was so interesting how she shared how EMDR got started. Like just this woman kind of like perfect place, perfect time, perfect mental space, perfect person to experience this and to do the research. And yeah, the EMDR, the conception of it was really cool to hear too.
Yes. And she didn't mention, but she mentioned before to me during our sessions was in the research in it, it mimics the REM sleeping, REM, the rapid eye movement sleep. So when people talk about your dreams, you process things of what happened in the day when you're sleeping, and it's during REM sleep. When you're sleeping, your eyes are doing that during a certain amount of time. It's not all night. It's when you're in your deep sleep, which is depending on when you go to bed. But if you go to if you sleep the regular, go to bed at 9 and wake up at 6, the REM sleep is like from 3 to 5. Those 2 hours, your eyes are doing that because your body's processing it on its own, but it's not controlled like it is in EMDR because you're focusing on what you want to process. And in your sleep, your body has to process things, but it's doing it on its own. So, have you heard of REM sleep?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And that just actually ties it all in together. Darn it.
Yes,
We need to bring Michelle back for
yes,
but you explained it beautifully. And that makes perfect sense because your body because your mind is like processing everything from the days or
yeah.
whatever. It's so funny you talked about dreams. Okay, I would love to talk. Let's talk about dreams for a minute. I
Okay.
had the craziest dream. I usually don't remember my dreams, but I woke up on Monday. What's today? I woke up a couple days ago, actually. It doesn't matter what day it is. And I remembered my dreams so vividly. And we're going on vacation in a couple of months. And my dream was about that vacation. Like I was packing and it was panicking. And there's so much research or things about the meaning of dreams. And if you dream, I had a dream book for a while. You could look up if you dream about this and it means this or that. And that just like completes a circle as far as REM sleep and how your brain is like processing everything from the days or whatever and what's going on in your mind while you're asleep unconsciously, and how it's that eye movement back and
Yes,
forth that
yes,
helps your mind process past trauma or triggers or whatever. Look at that. We're continuing to learn here about EMDR and our brains. And I mean, but do your own research. We are not experts. Michelle's a semi expert, I would say. Not licensed, but expert by experience.
yes. Um, so I wish when that happens of you're in it and in anything in a conversation with someone or something, and then you think about it later, and you're like, I should have brought this up. I should have said this. I should have said. So that was one of them. But yeah, we're talking about it now. So
Yeah.
uh, that's what it is. I guess when they were doing the studies in that in EM with the EMDR, because she was saying there's a lot of research on it. They noticed the correlation of that and REM sleep of it's doing pretty much. They put the things on people's brains and them sleeping, and then put the I don't know what they're called, but they put the thing
Electrode.
yeah, on the brain and what lights up and things like that during EMDR, and it's like the same things. So, but with EMDR, you're focusing on what you're processing versus when you sleep. So yeah, it's amazing, and I didn't know 95% of what she shared of what her experience. I didn't know because I was her client, so she doesn't talk about herself. I go there and it's all about me because I'm the person getting treatment. So I learned a lot. I had no idea. And for her to turn such a horrible situation into, she's like, I'm not gonna, she wants to make a difference. She doesn't want any child to feel what she went through going to therapists and experiencing what she experienced. And she's made such a big difference. I mean, just in my life, and I'm only one person, and she sees hundreds of people. Like all the life she's changing out of this horrible situation is just mind blowing. And I, it makes me think of all the things that may happen to us, like just in our lives, and what beauty has come out in that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I started thinking, what have I gone through that turned into something beautiful that was horrible. And um, I remember when I was diagnosed with severe depression, I was 12. And I mentioned before, I was depressed since I was really little, like not knowing what it was, just I had nothing to compare it to. I didn't know anything else. And for them to say that, once you get like a diagnosis, you start to think like, oh my gosh, poor me, or at least I did. I was 12 and I was just like, oh my gosh, poor me. And I remember saying to our mom one night when nighttime was always the worst for me because that's when everything's calming down and you're in your head, and then you got school the next day where you have to face all the demons to me. All the people that don't understand you and don't get you. And so I kind of paused because I don't want to call the little people that were tormenting me demons. They didn't know better anyways, but that's how I was just, I had to go
Mhm.
face the music. Um, but at nighttime, I would just be like, why is this happening to me? Once I had a diagnosis, and she told me, and it's always stuck with me, she said, one day you'll be able to help people that are going through what you're going through. And I hated that answer because, but now here I am, and this is what I want to do. I want to help. I want to get the message out there. I want to help people to know that they're not alone, and it gets better, and there's tools and all of that. And it's always stuck. Even though I didn't like her answer, it stuck with me.
Mhm.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, that is. So, is that one of the things that when thinking about, like, yeah, Michelle's interview was just so vulnerable and honest and so beautiful about things that she experienced. And I love that you didn't know that, because that probably would be too personal to share with a client. But now she's not seeing you in that
Yeah.
capacity, and be able to share that, um, having experienced like traumatic therapy, and having experienced a rape, and how she was treated by the police, and the things that she wanted to do to make a difference, and how she did turn that around and use that to fuel her passion, say, I'm going to
Yeah.
make a difference. And um so the one thing that comes up in your mind is like you having depression, and now doing something to help others and share your experiences in that way.
Yes. One of them is you. Not necessarily you were dealing with depression. I know you're dealing with a hard time, and I was able to relate to you. Because I know it was different situations, but I know the feeling, and so just to talk to you and share what I've felt, and you're like, "Yes, yes," and then you know that you're not alone. And then we were able to talk about other things, and I try to help you, but I'm not a therapist or nothing, but just of things that have helped me and where I am and all that. And I think it's helped you to where we were like these for me, some of the things we talked about, I'm like, this needs to get out there. And that's the whole point of why we started this, was the sister confessions of, we all go through these things, and it's not really talked about like out in the open. And like you mentioned before, there's a time and place for everything. But I remember one of my therapy, before I met Michelle, I tried different things. One of them was a group therapy, and I thought, okay, I'll try that. and it's a group of people dealing with depression. That's how they described it. So you sit in a big circle in chairs, and then there's like a leader or a host that coordinates where the discussion goes. And everyone in there was just complaining about everyday stuff, and it was just a complaining session. And I was like, I, I'm like deeper than this. This is not about a bill I don't want to pay. This is like my, it doesn't matter what's going on. I'm in a hole and I don't know how to get out. And every time it was like my turn to talk, I would share how I'm feeling and they would look at me. The people in the circle would look at me like, wow, you got issues. And I was like,
I
isn't
thought
this
that's
for
why I was here.
depression? No, they were there to just complain, I guess just to vent, because I don't know, I had more issues, I guess. I wasn't, it wasn't surface stuff. I wanted to get deep into conversation, and it wasn't the place for me, I guess. And they, after like my third group meeting, the leader was like, I think you need one-on-one. Like this isn't, I think you need more help. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. Is not, this isn't a fit. And that was fine.
Yeah.
Um, I'm glad I was released from that because it wasn't working for me. And I mentioned that in the other, the last podcast with my therapist. Like, if it's not, give it a try. If it's not working for you, find something else. Don't stop though. I don't recommend stopping because you're in the middle of something. Just find what works for you. And so I did stop and looked. I tried another type of therapy. Just keep trying.
Right.
Don't
There's so
give up.
many different kinds.
So many, and it worked for those people that were there. Not me.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, that is I remember when I was living in California, I the healthcare system, I at one point I was trying to go to therapy, and to access therapy through this healthcare system, I don't know if I should say it or not, probably not. It doesn't matter, but you had to go to group therapy. That was like the gate. You couldn't just sign up to have mental health services. You had to do like a group therapy session, and I was like, I don't want that. Like, I just want to go and speak to someone about my what I'm dealing with. And yeah, weird.
Maybe that's part of it. It was a long time ago, and then I I did sign up for it also because at this, under this insurance,
Yes.
um, I couldn't see a therapist for another 2 months
Yeah.
because they're fully booked. So then I was like, well, I need something because I'm not okay. I need to talk to somebody. So I think that's what happened. Now that I I made my appointment, but I have to wait 2 months. I'm not gonna last that long. So I found this group therapy, and then I just went outside of my medical insurance because it took 2 months to see a therapist. And then once I did, I didn't see them for another month.
Mm.
You know, you need it. I needed it more constant because of how um much help I needed.
Yeah, right now I've taken a break from therapy right now. It's been maybe four or five a few weeks. I don't know. It's been a little while because it got I don't know, I'm kind of assessing where I'm at with therapy, but I was going weekly. And let me tell you, after my weekly appointment was over, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to wait for another week for this. Like, I'm ready. Are you available tomorrow morning? Because I got more to process. I've got more to work out here. So, yeah. Yeah. So, another resource, I think a lot of employers offer employee assistance program, EAP. Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
That's how I found her.
Yeah, so that's
with
what I was
that.
gonna say for and so if you guys are listening and interested in getting into therapy, a lot of employers offer EAP, and it's like a therapy, a limited amount of therapy. So talk to your human resource and see what
Yes,
your company offers because they can pay for a certain amount or whatever your company offers, but that's like a free service. Preliminary,
yes.
I don't know, what different companies I work for offered like 3 or 4 sessions or something like that, but at least to get you going and kind of just get the ball rolling.
Great, 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 Desiree, because that is how I found her,
Okay.
through that EAP, program. If I went through my insurance, it would have been probably another month till um, they're so backed up. The amount of people that need help and then the amount of people that are in, yeah, licensed therapists, is the ratio is absolutely unmatched. So, but there are a lot of therapists out there. It's finding the right one is what I recommend. Just don't give up. Desiree, don't give up.
No, I'm not. Definitely not. And I have a wonderful mentor that I work with. I go to Celebrate Recovery. I have great support there, and what I do love about Celebrate Recovery, I've talked about it a lot. There are different podcasts. Is that it is group. There is no like certified whatever, but I love the beauty and the vulnerability of the women that go around and just share their struggles and trials. It's a time to process and reflect um yeah, they're just on sometimes they're frivolous, like, oh, my husband didn't blah 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 blah, and sometimes they're really really deep, like um a variety of different things. So I do love the honesty and vulnerability of just people trying to get better and trying to um figure out what's going on and get to the root of things. So yeah, that was a great conversation. I loved how she talked about how that trauma had, that traumatic experience had like propelled her into something greater, into helping people. Can I share? I think of a couple of things. I personally have experienced that as well. Just we actually had a podcast, Collateral Beauty, several podcasts ago, where we talked about our father's death and how some beautiful things came out of that tragedy. Like you can find the beauty in tragedy, in a variety of different ways. It's usually not in the moment. It usually takes a little time to see the effects. But I was working with a client last year, and it was really interesting. So I worked in workforce development, and he was looking for a job. He had his doctorate. He was incredibly smart, in his 70s, and very established, a great experience, but he had a criminal background. He was convicted in money laundering or fraud, money fraud or something like that, and went to prison. And so now he has a felony. He doesn't have his teaching credential. He's incredibly smart and qualified, but people with that kind of background, it's really hard for them to find a job. So I was working with him to find a job. But what he said about that is that it was the best blessing in his life to go to prison, because he said he was caught up in his career and really busy and never really went to the doctor, and from entering the prison system had a doctor appointment, and they found cancer and they treated cancer. And he said, if I would have not went to prison, I would have died of cancer. I wouldn't have went, I wouldn't have caught it, I wouldn't have known. And he calls it an incredible blessing that he went to prison. So I, things like that, where it's like in the middle, why is this happening to me? Like, why me? And what these trials? And but there's so many beautiful things that can come from the trials if we just seek, ask, and we'll find the answers and see the unraveling of that in time.
That's so true. And when you're in the thick of it, like you said, it's, oh my gosh, but also to say, oh my gosh, but think, "W- what am I supposed to learn from this? Like, there's a lesson here. I feel like before I felt like life was happening to me all the time. Oh, why me? Why? Oh my gosh, again. But now when things are not okay, I think that still. Then I stop myself and and I'm like, okay, what's the lesson here? And you may not know it right away, but to just start looking at it at a different through a different lens like that, it's not it's better. And then you're looking out for the signs or for the you're looking for the solution and not at the problem. If you keep looking at the problem, you're not going to see the solution. You
Yeah.
start you you're stuck. So you look at it differently like that. It's still the same issue, but you're looking at it as in what am I supposed to learn from this? And I mean, there's nothing that I haven't learned through everything going my way. I think if everything went my way, I wouldn't have developed the way I have.
Mm.
Uh, I've learned so much about me and about life. I can't wait to be that wise old lady because there's so much. Oh, the older people are so wise because they've gone through so much,
Yeah.
and I don't want to go through the bad stuff, but I know that it will
Help.
help me grow. Like our dad passing, definitely. I I was a mess at first, but I've definitely grown as a person 10 octaves than I would be now if he was still alive, I think.
Yeah. Um, Also, speaking about lessons, I feel like when things come up in our life and we're supposed to learn from them and we don't, the lessons will keep coming up. Like it's like God saying, "Well, you didn't learn the first time, so let's give you another lesson. Let's see if you can learn this time." I remember I was at work and I had such a challenging time with a coworker a couple years ago, and I was like, I need to quit. This is too much. This is ridiculous. This is not good for my mental health." And I'm like, "Okay, no, there's a lesson to learn here. Like if I quit now, there's going to be two of these people at my next job. That doesn't mean that it's going to the grass isn't greener. It doesn't mean that it could be it couldn't be, I don't know, but I was like, okay, I need to learn whatever the lesson, be more graceful or be more patient or whatever my lesson was. um but I think of that too, like whenever I'm in a trial, like, okay, I need to figure out what the lesson is. What are my triggers? How am I not handling this gracefully? Or how, what's in me that isn't good that I need to like work on and develop personally and learn from that lesson rather than run from it, because it's just going to keep popping up until we learn that lesson.
That is so true. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I should be like so freaking smart by now with all these lessons that I keep getting. Oh my gosh. I'm tired of lessons. Can have a break from lessons.
Have you have you seen a theme in your lessons?
Have I seen a theme? I don't think so right off the bat, but I will think about that more. I feel like the lessons have just been varied. Um, but I'll think about that more. I don't
There
know.
may
I
be
don't
a
think so,
theme.
but maybe there. I don't know. I'm gonna
Seems
say,
random.
huh?
It seems random,
Yeah,
but if we look at it closer, there may be a theme to it.
yeah. I don't
Mm,
know. I think the
yeah.
theme is I'm a simple person that needs to continue refining my character. So all the things that encompasses is the theme. Like I just being more graceful, being more honest, not being conflict avoidant. Um, yeah. Hmm.
There's a I'm gonna misquote this story, but it's a story that I've heard, and I aspire to be like that one day. I don't think that will happen, but I've heard it several podcasts that I listened to, and it was similarly to that of um, trials, issues coming up of um, a man that is living his life, and then they come and bring a 8-year old. I'm totally misquoting, but they bring a little boy to his doorstep and say, "This is your son, and his mom died, and you need to take care of him now." And he had no idea that this kid existed,
Hmm.
and he just said, "Ah, so." And then, like, it was he was just like, "Okay, here." And then he raised the son, and the son grew up, and then all of a sudden, "No, actually, he's not your son. After all these years, he's not your son, so we're taking him away." And he's like, "Ah, so," like,
What does he say? Also,
"Ah," like, like, "Ah, so," like,
so.
yeah, like,
So.
"Ah, so," and just, it goes on, but it's like that's just the start of it, but it goes on and on, and he just that's his reaction to all of the situations in his life, and he's just being. He's just and I I guess rolling with the punches, but being himself, and taking it on, and learning from it, and his reaction to it. Like I said, I aspire to be like that one day, but I'm far from it right now. But that would be amazing, just to just accept however, don't be a doormat, but accept how things are, and live through it. Go through it. Do it.
Hmm.
That would be amazing.
That would be, yes. Michelle, that is such a great question about the theme of lessons. Is there a theme, or I am going to think more about that. But how about you? Do you notice a theme of your life lessons or trials or things that you've been through?
Um, I I was gonna look more into it too, like you said. I know there's a theme because I remember reflecting back on, like, I think during COVID, where everyone slowed down, everything slowed down. I didn't. I was still in therapy at the time, but we moved, so we were doing it through um, Zoom. But I think I did do like a reflection and try to find a theme. The theme that I can think of right now, just because we're talking about it, is um, not like a core belief, which like we talked about in the last episode, but more of the issues or trials, or things that happened that really, like, were blows to me. I did to myself. Everything, anything, any situation that was like, oh my gosh, devastating to me. If I reflect back and think about it and think deep into it, I didn't intentionally cause these things to happen. I've subconsciously caused these things to happen. Like I said, not on purpose, but I had a part in all of it, a big part, and which caused me to realize, life is not happening to me. I'm creating my own path
Mm.
without even knowing it. And now that I'm aware of that, I'm doing it more positively instead of walking around causing, life to happen to me, walking around blindly. I love the song Amazing Grace because it's not so literal of I once was blind, like you can't see literally, but it's more in depth of your I'm doing this in relation to what we're talking about. Like I was blind of everything that I was happening to me, and I was causing those things to happen to me without me even knowing it. And it was like I said, it was, oh my gosh, again, here we go again, or here's this again, and why me? And it's not why me. It's I did it to myself, and here we are, and gotta I gotta work
Learn
through it,
and move on.
learn,
Learn.
learn. I've learned so much from all of that, so much.
I I had a conversation with my daughter, she's 10, and she was having a hard time in math, and so we were sitting down at the table for breakfast the other morning, and I said she didn't want to ask for help for math. And so I was like, well, so what are some things you can do? And I wrote them down on a little piece of paper as a reminder. And I said, put this in your pocket or put it in the desk, so anyway, so we were talking about what she can do whenever she's feeling really like anxious and frustrated. And so we wrote it all down, and I was like leading her to come up with the ideas and helping, helping navigate that conversation. So she came up with the good ideas. And then she's like, well, I can't do that. She's like, it's not going to work. That's what she said. It's not going to work. And I told her, I said, well, if you think you can, and if you think you can't, you're right. So that's it. Like, you're already telling me it's not going to work, and you haven't even tried it. So how do you know it's not going to work? And so that's kind of what you're saying is, it made me think about, like, it was all these things happening, and it's like, oh, it's happened to me, it's happened to me. What, that's the theme of your lessons, where it's like, well, no, wait a second. Like, I have say in this, I have contribution, I can change things around, and
Yes,
being more mindful,
yes,
intentful in your living, and
yes,
yeah, being awake, not blind.
yes.
Mm.
Being awake, being conscious of what you're doing and how that may, like, it's a ripple effect of your life of this one dumb decision, and you're doing it, you're making, and the ripple effect, and it'll come back to you, and you're like, oh, why, like,
Mm.
well, you started this whole thing, whatever it is. There's so many examples I could give, I'm not ready to share yet, but
Wait
sister
for
confessions.
30. Sister confessions continue.
Yeah. um but yeah, it's your whole life is a ripple effect of your mindset, of how you look at things, how you contribute to things you don't even know you're doing. And I mean, there's so much, so much, the good and the bad. And we're talking about the bad right now. And um yeah, so my theme was I did all these things. I created all of that. Even though, like, that
I didn't realize
particular
it.
situation was not me, it was something that was happening to me. I started it, or I okay, you wake up in the morning, you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be a bad day. It's gonna be a bad day. I know it." Well, you're looking through that lens, everything that's gonna happen is you're gonna, hit every red light we talked about, hit every red light to get to work, and you're like, this is why it's a horrible day," not knowing that this red light is preventing you in an accident that you got stuck at this light. If you didn't and you continued, you would have been in an accident. You had no idea. Like things like that. Like looking at it in a different perspective, a different lens. Um, I talk about that with my son in the morning. I tell him so that we could start off on a good foot of gonna be a good day. And I say it every morning. We're gonna have a good day today. I'm gonna have a good day at work. You're gonna have a good day at school. It's gonna be a great day. And if you go into the day knowing it's gonna be good, things bad that happen um aren't so bad.
And also
It's
you're
still
looking for the good. So things that you
there-
wouldn't notice,
yes, yes,
know,
yeah.
you're
But
grateful for that green light. Wow, great. It's a green light.
yes, yes. And yeah, I mentioned before he's 6, so he argues and says, "No, it's not gonna be a good day. I don't wanna go to school." Like if like you said, if it's not gonna be a good day, you're right. If
Yep.
it's gonna be a good day, you're right.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah. Okay, then you're not gonna have a good if you go in knowing it's gonna be bad, then it is gonna be bad.
You'll be
Um,
for all the bad, noticing all the bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, the theme for me, like I said, right now, just because we're winging it. Um, but if I look deeper into it, and I know I have, uh, there is a theme. There more of a specific theme. Yes. I'm a procrastinator, so things, you're in a rush to get things done. If you did it on time, you wouldn't be in a rush and things wouldn't be so um overwhelming. I get overwhelmed a lot. Well, I did it to myself
Yeah.
because if you just did it when you were supposed to, you wouldn't be overwhelmed.
Yeah,
Stuff
I'm
like
with you on that. I'm definitely a procrastinator. I'm a pro. I'll have to think about my theme too on my lessons, and that is kind of, it goes back to a little bit what I was saying. Like if we don't learn our lessons, if we're not like mindful and trying to process what the lessons are in the trials, right then, what can you learn from it? How can you grow from it? It's just going to keep perpetuating and happening until you realize, what that lesson is and learn and grow from it. Then, you dismiss it or run away from it and don't address the issue. Then it's just going to keep happening and popping up in different forms and different capacities all around our lives. So
Yes.
yeah, that is, I'm looking forward to it. I wrote it down. I have my little notebook here, so that's my homework. What is the theme of the trials from my life?
I challenge the listeners, the viewers to do that. Reflect
Yes, that's a great.
on those things and find the theme because there is.
Uh-huh. That is good. Great challenge. Hey, as we were talking, I was thinking about, I had shared just a few minutes ago about that one client I had who went to prison and how he found that blessing. And how, so I just met with a client a couple of days ago. It was such a beautiful meeting. Anyway, she's in recovery. She used to be a drug addict and she went to jail, and so she was sharing some of her experiences with me, but she did not look at it as a negative. She said it was actually the biggest blessing in my life. Me going to jail got me sober. She said I didn't have the opportunity or experience to get sober, and because I went to jail I got sober, and that was like the first step to getting my life back on track. And so just thinking about how the trials, and someone going to jail, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen to me, but it could really be a blessing of what, learning from those trials, growing from those trials, I guess.
Yes,
Mhm.
all of them are lessons. You just gotta look at it that way.
Yeah, there's a few beautiful Bible verses that I have held on to over this past couple of years. James 1, 2 through 4. I love it. It's consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, which feels counterintuitive. Like, how can you consider a trial pure joy? But because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And that's kind of what we're talking about. When you learn from these lessons, you become more mature, you become more whole, you dig deeper and figure out what are my things that I'm lacking or things that I need to grow from. So I just wanted to share. It's one of my favorite Bible verses is how to have good perspective. Can it consider it pure joy whenever you face trials is not the way you think about trials. But when you look at it, it's like, who knows how God's going to use this? Who knows how I'm going to learn from it? Just being open and grateful and okay, so next. Okay, so is that what it was? Okay, so
So
oh so
yeah, but yeah, I mean, that was how he said it, but exactly. Okay, so yeah, exactly.
keep
That's
going on.
how it is. Let's handle that situation now, and let's handle yeah. But in that mind frame, that's wonderful that you just have that handy right now.
I
um,
I wish I could say I have it memorized. Shame on me. I should because I do love that Bible verse, but I googled it. It's a confession.
yeah, that was great though, because it's exactly what we're talking about of seeing it. I mean, going back to my therapist, I'm sure in the moment, I mean, her thought was, I need to get in the system because this is not the way we need to treat victims.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, for her to feel empowered versus a victim, I mean, they didn't believe her, and not only that, the trauma she went through really gets you into a different mindset. But she felt empowered to. I I would say, and for me, I would not feel empowered at that time. I would feel empowered maybe years later after all the therapy and be like, okay, I need to make a change. But right then and there, she's like, no, this is not okay. And for her to,
I think I do remember her saying that she was a mess for a little while after that. Probably wanting to make a difference, but that's why her friend said, "Hey, you really need to get into therapy and address this," because she wasn't addressing it and tending to it. She went into therapy, experienced EMDR, and was like, "Oh my gosh, this is healing. I need to do this to help
it's out
others."
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's you never know the timing of, usually you don't experience that clarity until who knows how long.
you work through it.
But I think that there's hope in the trial because whenever you think of it, it's like, okay, I'm going to learn something, I'm going to grow. If you might not know what that is in that moment, but like having the hope through that is like, okay, how's God going to use this? Okay, I trust that it's going to turn for the good somehow, and surrendering to that and having you know that mind frame, that mindset. If you think you can, if you think you can't, if there's something bad happening, is like, oh, this is horrible, it's happening to me, then yeah, that's how you're going to be stuck. But if you think of it as like, okay, I'm going to learn and grow from this, and you be able to help someone down the road or whatever, it change, like you said, it just changes the whole mindset about how you approach that mentally. It's all in the mind, it all starts in the mind.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it is. And if you're not mindful and you're not they say consciously living, you're like just living off the default, you're gonna see it all as happening to you. Because I did
Yeah.
for the longest time, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, good. This was a good combo. Do you have any last thoughts?
Um, no, it was a good conversation. I I normally do have last thoughts, but on this one, I just feel like when it comes to our trials, um, to try to look at it. I'm just summarizing what we said. Try to look at it as a lesson and not. Um, I'm sorry, I have it to go. Look at it as a lesson versus it's happening to you and it changes everything.
Mm,
Try to find the solution. Um, when I say try to find the solution, I'm saying, oh, okay. To try to, so when I say focus on the solution and not the problem, if you knew the solution, you wouldn't have the problem, right? It would be so
yeah,
like that's
sounds
I
good.
don't like that. Yeah. Um, so when I mentioned that, I mean looking at it as hopeful, looking at it as a lesson, and what am I to learn from this versus, oh my gosh, this is happening to me. So if you look at it, you will find the solution. You will find the light at the end of the tunnel. Looking at it through the lens of what's the lesson versus, oh my gosh, this is happening to me again. Whatever. Another thing that's a problem. You won't see. You won't. You will not find the solution thinking that way.
Mhm.
Think what is the lesson, and that's how you eventually find the solution. It's not. It's not out. It's not like right there. You had to go through it still, but looking through it in that mindset versus here we go again.
Right.
Um,
And you never know what beauty will come from it. Like if I I shared a couple of experiences with the clients that I've worked with, and we have shared some of our experiences of how trials have um become these like unexpected blessings. One of the things was me having a really tough time over the past year and a half or so, and Michelle and I were talking often, and we just talked about beautiful, deep, difficult things, and um I'm seeing the blessings of the trial that I went through that I would never imagine was possible. But yeah, it does take time to, so being hopeful and saying, I don't know how this is going to end. I don't know what I'm going to learn from this," but being open to it and being honest with yourself about it, and looking for the green lights, not the red lights.
yeah.
Yeah, that is good. All right, Michelle. Well, as always, great to talk with you. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in and listen to us chit chat about these things. We would love to hear your comments, whatever you have to say. If you have a theme in your lessons, we would love to hear that. I'm not sure what my theme is, so I'm going to have to think if there is a theme. That's going to be my homework. Um, but if you guys have like discovered a theme in your guys' trials or the lessons that you've learned, we would love to hear that. And tune in next week and subscribe if you want to get the notification for our next podcast, and we'll keep chatting about life. All right. Well, Michelle, have a great night, and always great to talk with you, and we'll talk soon.
Good night.
Okay. Love you.
Love you. Bye.